my name is Ella Gordon and I work here at Jamieson and Smith. Today we're going to go through the different ranges of yarns we sell here at Jamieson and Smith. I'm sure you watched Oliver's video going on about the raw wool, and this is the other side of that and all the different yarns that we produce and why you might choose one or the other. And so this video we're going to go through all the yarn ranges from 1 ply up to Aran that we sell here. Okay, so we'll start with the 1 ply cobweb. So this is a 1 ply yarn, which is the finest that we do. And this would be used traditionally for making shawls or very fine work. And the 1 ply cobweb we sell just in 2 colours, in the bleached white and the dyed black. So you can see here it's a very fine 1 ply yarn, and we have different ranges in a woolen and worsted spun, which is different ways that the yarn has been prepared, and we have another small video that you can watch as well that goes through those two different spinning styles. But the 1 ply cobweb is woolen spun, and it's a 50% Shetland, 50% lamb's wool mix, so that kind of creates a different feeling as well than the 1 ply supreme, which I'll go into in a minute. So because it's woolen spun, it has more of almost a cottony feeling. It is 100% wool, but it has more of a cotton feeling, like I say. And you can see here this is one of the Gladys and Meadrow christening robe patterns. Because it's woolen spun, it has a bit more stitch definition. So you can see on the lace that you can clearly kind of see the individual stitches and the individual motifs. And so that makes it's good for that for lace, and traditionally this is what people would use for lace. But we also have the Shelton Supreme range of 1 ply, which is what these scarves are made in here. And this we developed a few years ago, and this we only sell in natural colours. In the 1 ply we do have an optic white, but then we also have the undyed shades of white, fawn, murret, grey and Shetland black. So that's all completely undyed, 100% real Shetland wool. And the reason you might choose the supreme lace over the 1 ply cobweb is because it's worsted spun, which means it's been combed. The yarn has more of a drape. It kind of hangs a bit more than the 1 ply cobweb, which is a bit more kind of solid. And because it's just in the natural colours, when we were trialling this yarn, somebody said it was the nearest to hand spun that you can get. So it kind of gives that kind of feel. Some people do find it harder to knit with than the 1 ply cobweb because it's combed. It kind of has more of a halo, which means it can be harder to take back if you make mistakes or anything. So sometimes people prefer the 1 ply cobweb because it's a bit more solid, it's easier to take back. But yeah, it's a very nice yarn. But you can see it here in this scarf, which is the quarry scarf. This is Shetland black. So when we say Shetland black, it means it's a natural black, not a dyed black. You can see like up against here, it is a very, very dark brown rather than a black, but it's a natural black. So this is the 1 ply Shelton Supreme here, and it's very strong. That is a good thing about the worsted spun process. It makes a very strong yarn. So you can see that in the natural white and the natural grey. And it is slightly finer than the 1 ply cobweb. Yardage wise, the cobweb is 350 metres to 25 gram balls, and then there's 400 metres on the 1 ply, Shelton Supreme 1 ply. So it is slightly finer. And then we also have the Shelton Supreme lace in a 2 ply, again just in the natural colours of white, fawn, murret grey and Shetland black. So it's the same as the 1 ply, but it's just 2 plies obviously. This shawl, which is the Lauren by Goodwin Johnson. So this is, yeah, in the 2 ply Shelton Supreme. So it just hangs really nicely because of the way it's been spun, and has a lovely drape. And then this shawl is one of the Gladys and Meadrow 2-ply shawls, which Sandra remade in the Supreme 2-ply lace. So this is in the natural white. And for the yardage of that, there's 200 meters on a 25-gram ball. So it is, again, slightly finer than our normal 2-ply lace. So we also have the woolen spun 2-ply lace, which you can see has been used. So again, it's usually traditionally used in lace, but you can use it for colour work, basically anything that you need a kind of finer yarn. And that is woolen spun. This is a good, because we have, this shawl pattern was originally knit in the woolen spun 2-ply lace. So we have kind of both versions. We have one in Supreme and in the woolen spun, and you can see the difference. Obviously this is also bleached white, whereas this is a natural white. But it's just really personal preference on what kind of finish you want the item to have. Things that will be used more, you might want to go for the woolen spun, and things that are more for special occasions, or the Supreme lace is a finer yarn, and the woolen spun 2-ply lace we have in dyed colours, whereas the Supreme 2-ply lace we just have it in the natural colours. But yeah, you can use it for any pattern, like a vintage pattern or something that's calling for a 3-ply yarn. Quite often people will use the woolen spun 2-ply lace. And yeah, you can use it for colour work or things like that. So in 2012, we developed a new range of yarns called Shelton Heritage, which was, together with the Museum and Archives, was to replicate the kind of very old traditional colours and yarns that would have been used in original Shetland fair isle knitting. So we developed the Shelton Heritage range, which originally we had just 6 very traditional colours, which this came from that time. Doesn't have all of them, but and yeah, so we have, and they're named after what they kind of would have been used. So the blue is indigo, we have peat, old gold, fluggy white, and berry wine. And these are worsted spun as well, so they've been combed rather than carded, and that creates a much softer yarn. So quite a lot of people can find that they could wear the heritage yarns next to their skin, whereas with jumper weight or woolen spun yarns, some people find them a bit more itchy. The Shelton Heritage range is kind of between 2-ply lace and jumper weight. So the good thing about that is it means you can use it for both fair isle and lace. It works very well for both. So you can see on this shawl, which is a traditional Shetland hap. It kind of makes something which is lightweight, but still, because it's slightly heavier than lace weight and kind of in between the two, it's just a kind of a good weight for shawls and also kind of lighter weight garments. And this shawl was done in the Shetland Heritage Naturals, which is completely undyed range. So we have the white, dark grey, light grey, which this is the first time we have a light grey in the undyed ones, fawn, murret and Shetland black. And we also have a dark fawn, which is a limited edition shade at the moment. And I think adding the natural shades really rounded out the yarn as well. You can see in this garment, which is a Mary Henderson design, this kind of uses both the dyed and the undyed range together. And it just makes, yeah, a really traditional, but very timeless. So you can see, and this is our Fair Isle cap pattern, which we did when the Shelton Heritage range came out originally. So this is replicating a hat which is in the museum collection, and it's double-sided and uses the kind of traditional motifs that you found. And again, because it's worsted spun, meaning it's been combed, it has a lovely drape as well. And that makes it good for scarves and things that are going to be slightly closer to your skin. So yardage wise, for the Shelton Heritage, like I said, it's slightly thinner than jumper weight. It's 110 metres per 25 grams. So it's kind of there in between 2-ply lace and jumper weight. Yeah, so you can kind of see here, that's the thinness of the Supreme 2-ply, and then this is the Shelton Heritage. And then the Shelton Heritage Natural. So although they are quite fine yarns though as well, you can knit them on a range of needle sizes and they will kind of fill out to take that place. And for things that are being done on lace, like this is knit on quite a big needle size, but that just really even helps with the drape. It makes it hang nice. Okay, so next we have our 2-ply jumper weight, which is probably what we are most well known for doing. So this is a traditional Shetland 4-ply thickness, 100% Shetland wool yarn. We currently have it in over 90 colours, basically every colour in the rainbow. And we made this yarn in the late 1960s. Mainly it was because, so we took in all the raw wool, and at that time there was a lot of people working at the herring that were based in Shetland, and they would knit while they were in Shetland, and then once they were away, they wanted to get more yarn. So they started doing, they would send away the wool here and we would get it spun and then take it back and we would sell it. So that was how we started doing mail order in, I think it was 1968 or something. And jumper weight is probably, yeah, our most well-known yarn. So jumper weight is woolen spun, and this means rather than being combed, the wool is carded. So that means the fibres are a bit more kind of together and all over the place. Whereas with the worsted spun, they're more parallel. And this makes for a very kind of airy and lofty yarn, which works extremely well for Fair Isle, which is why it's as well known as it is. This means with garments like this little cardigan, which is the Natalia yoke. In Shetland, we do a lot of steeking, which is where extra stitches are cast on and they're knit as a bridge and then they're cut up afterwards, which means you can knit in the round, not have to go back and forth, which when you're doing Fair Isle is a bit of a pain. So you can see here on this little cardigan, this is the steeks here, and Sandra has done a crocheted edging, but you don't even need to, you can just cut it straight away, but it just folds back. And because it's woolen spun, the fibres don't want to unravel. You can still do steeks and everything with worsted spun because it's Shetland wool, it doesn't want to unravel, but in woolen spun yarns, it just works totally perfectly. So we use the jumper weight for lots of different things. This is the Antarctica jumper by Sandra and Antarctica mittens that goes with it. But you also see a lot of hats and accessories. This is the roadside beanie, which was Oliver's design for Wool Week in 2019. But yeah, so colour wise, you can see, yeah, we go through every colour of the rainbow, and different shades they're done in different ways. So you have a lot of solid shades, kind of flat colours, and then we also have a lot of marbled colours. And they're all really quite representative of kind of things in Shetland, nature, and you see in the greens like the grass and things like that. So yeah, here's just an example of a few of the colours. We sell them in 25 gram balls, which is quite small, but that is really what you need if you're doing Fair Isle. You're using a lot of colours, you want kind of small amounts that you can then use your leftovers for another thing. So that's the 2-ply jumper weight. So as well as the 2-ply jumper weight, we also have the Supreme jumper weight, which this is completely undyed, 4-ply, same thickness as the jumper weight, but just in the undyed colours. So we have 9 undyed shades. And these were developed really to kind of use the coloured wool, which for a time, obviously the white was most common because that was what people could use, and then it would be easily dyed. But we've always had the lovely undyed shades available in the sheep, so we wanted to kind of make use of that colours. So we have the white, and then musket, Shayla, Murret, Shetland black, Gallmogget, Shalmett, Cat Mullet, and Yuglet. So that's all traditional names for those shades. And 2001, 2004, 5, and 9 are just as they are, kind of off the sheep's back, I suppose. And then the other ones are blended together from all the different, because we get lots of different variations of the colour fleeces. So here you can see this is 2005 Shetland black. And we sell it in 50 gram balls rather than the 25 gram balls. And the yardage is slightly different. It's not exactly, like 50 grams of the Supreme jumper weight isn't exactly double of the 25 gram 2-ply jumper weight, which I think is because the yarn isn't dyed, so it's not been processed. So that creates, it's just a much kind of loftier yarn. And yeah, so you get 172 meters to 50 grams. But probably the most popular or most well-known pattern that uses the Supreme jumper weight is the Rams and Yows and the Sheephead by Kate Davis, which you can see here. So this uses all 9 shades and has all the different sheep down here, and then the rams and their horns up here. And you can see the back side there and the lovely edging. But this is very important to us to use and utilise these the undyed colours, because they are very special and very effective in Shetland knitting and have been used for centuries in that. And people often ask if they can use the dyed jumper weight along with the Supreme jumper weight, and you can. So this is the Silwick vest that Sandra designed, which is in our book, Jamieson Smith, The Shelton Story. And you can see the undyed and the dyed, they work together perfectly. Although the Supreme jumper weight is very slightly thicker, there's no problem working them together. And here again, you can see more steeks. So we also have the Shetland worsted yarn. So this is our Aran weight yarn, and we have it available in the same shades as the Shelton Heritage dyed colours. And you can see here that it works lovely for slightly thicker, heavier garments, but you can still do quite traditional Fair Isle in that. This is the Vatin Jumper, which is also in our book, and these leg warmers, which are in the book as well. And yeah, so it's a slightly heavier, it's still very soft because it's worsted spun, and you get 61 meters per 50 grams. But it also works well for cables, or what you see here in this smaller jumper, this more kind of gansy effect, because the stitch definition is so good on it. Works well for that. So that's the worsted yarn. And then I'm just quickly going to go into the range of yarns made by West Yorkshire Spinners, which come from raw wool from Jamieson and Smith. So they came out with Croft Shelton Tweed, which is available in a range of solid and speckled colours, which is something totally different than anything that we have. And these are machine washable. They're superwash treated, so you can machine wash them. And then they've just come out with a similar range in a DK weight, which again is something that we don't have. So they're solid and speckled. And then they've also just come out with this, which is the Wild Shetland. This is an Aran Rovin yarn, so it's very loosely spun. And they're available in a range of kind of variegated with long stretches of colour. And then there's also just undyed white that goes with that. Okay, so I hope you found that interesting, and if you want to see any of our other videos, just click below, and you can also find our full range of yarns and patterns and products at www.shetlandwoolbrokers.co.uk.